Hello there viewers, and welcome to episode 3 of F1 Talk, and in this edition it's going to be an audio only edition. Basically the reasons for that is because contrary to what I said in my last video, I'm going to be posting pictures of the new cars for this season that have been released so far. So basically it's to just describe the cars so that you can see them without me having to try to describe them. The new cars released since the last video is the Lotus E20, and you should be seeing that on the screen right about now. It's named the E20 not in tribute to EastEnders, who would do that as an F1 fan or F1 team, but it's actually the 20th car to be produced in the factory in Enstone in Oxfordshire. And as you can see from the front of the nose, it hasn't got a step down to the ugly duckling. What it has got is the actual curve step, so it's a step in relative terms, and that's what I was trying to describe to you in the last video. It's a curve rather than a step, so already it's more attractive than say like the Ferrari or the Force India. What I will say is that the Lotus, who were formerly Renault car, is more attractive anyway because it's black and gold. Now I was a little bit young myself when the old JPS Lotuses came out, but I've seen clips and I think they're all beautiful cars, and this one is no exception. I still think it's just as good looking as the McLaren, if not slightly better because of that colour scheme. On to the next car now, and you should be seeing that on the screen, is the Sauber C31. And it's good to finally see that Sauber are finally beginning to get rid of the BMW colour schemes, and they're replacing the navy blue with black. Now, admittedly, a black and white car isn't something we usually see in Formula One, but, you know, it looks pretty good. Unfortunately, it does have a step down like the Ferrari and the Force India, but that seems to be the way that the aerodynamics people have been doing their jobs in the closed season. This one to be driven by Kobayashi and Jerez. Sauber have gone with a little bit of stability. It's the first time I remember them holding on to two drivers, and they announced that they would be doing that shortly after the Canadian Grand Prix. I don't know whether that's as a little bit of a thank you to both drivers, but they're both young drivers. If they continue to grow with the team, only good things can happen about that. You look at, in retrospect, the Toro Rosso results this season with two new drivers. On the screen now you should be seeing the car that everyone's been pooing their pants over, and that's the Red Bull RB8. Now, this one's going for a hat-trick of world titles and World Constructors' Championships, with Vettel and Webber at the wheel, especially Vettel. This car should do pretty good. And you note that this also has a step down to the ugly duckling nose, and you should also see that it's pretty similar to last year's, apart from a couple of bits at the front and a couple of bits in the rear wing. Adrian Newey does actually know what he's doing, but it'd be interesting to see whether that the lack of blown diffusers last season will actually give us a closer championship, is what I'm trying to say. And if it does, then I'm all for the changes. If it doesn't, then, you know, Newey's done it again. But so the Red Bull, only got one picture of that so far, but she looks like a beaut. Be interesting to see what Seb calls his car this year. A couple of years ago it was Luscious Liz, and then last year it's Kinky Kylie, so, you know, we could be going backwards or forwards in terms of letters, but we'll wait and see what he calls his chassis this year. On to Red Bull's sister team now, and Toro Rosso. As I say, here it is. You can quite clearly see it's designed separately from what Adrian Newey's been up to. during the winter. But again, you can see the step down onto the ugly Duckling. As I say, the interesting thing I think about this car is that they've got a Swiss rear wing sponsor, or at least it looks like it in my view, and they've got nothing Swiss about them. They're an Austrian or Italian team with Austrian backing. The STR7 there with the 2 new drivers, it might do okay. It's depending on how good the aerodynamics are. As I say, all the cars looking pretty similar with this step down, but you know, that's how the aerodynamics have had to been changed over the winter. The only team not to do that so far is the McLaren, so it'll be interesting to see what they have, you know, interpreted the new rules and regulations. As I say, the step down, there it is. Yeah, it's going to be a common feature with the remaining cars, I think. And you can just see, there it is again on the final new car released just before the testing began yesterday, and that's the Williams FW34 with drivers there, Pastor Maldonado and Bruno Senna, who I think will actually outdrive and outperform his teammate this season. I cannot see Maldonado staying in F1 after this season, to be honest with you. He's in there basically because of the backing of the Venezuelan government, and you know, how many more F1 seats are going to be taken up because they're paid for, you know. I feel sorry for Rubens Barrichello and Jaime Alguersuari, as I said in the last video. But Williams, as you can see, has a lack of a main sponsor at the moment. Powered by Renault, you know, the glory days of Mansell and Prost and Hill at Williams, where they use Renault engines. You know, it might change into a good move for them. I can only see them improving. They can't really get much worse, and if they do get worse, they'll be eaten by the 3 newer teams like Caterham, HRT, and the new name for Virgin, Marussia. Speaking of HRT and Marussia, they've yet to release their new cars, as have Mercedes, but Mercedes are waiting till later on in the month and just getting some tyre testing done, getting some valuable information with a car that they know is reliable. Yesterday was the first test, and it was around Jerez, and there was a lot of laps done by quite a few drivers. A 1:19.6 was the fastest time in the first of the 4-day test, set by Kimi Raikkonen in the Lotus, so it seems as though Raikkonen hasn't lost any of his pace or any of his ability. But a similar time was set by the Williams last season at this time by Rubens Barrichello, and look how bad that season ended up for them. So not a lot can be read into testing. At the moment, all they seem to be doing is getting some laps under their belt, getting a race distance under their belt, and just seeing how reliable the car is and tweaking out any problems. Basically a shakedown, really, which HRT did at the practice and qualifying of last year's Australian Grand Prix. I'd like to see all 24 cars on the grid. Whether that will happen come Melbourne, you know, is anyone's guess. But I will be posting some pictures of the other teams, and as I say, those should have been appearing on the screen as I've just been talking to you. Of course, I will be posting the first day's test results underneath in the description box. Not sure what I'm going to be doing for days 2 and 3, but after day 4 of testing, I'll certainly be giving you the main test results and who's been quickest, who's done the most laps, and hopefully direct you to some other F1 websites where you can actually see a couple of videos of what's been going on. Because, you know, testing is quite interesting. You can see how the new cars look when they're going around corners and things like that. So we start to get a feel for who's going to be doing quite well. As I speak to you, they're doing day 2. of testing at Jerez with the same drivers they used yesterday. Raikkonen will be in the Lotus, Button will be in the McLaren, Massa in the Ferrari. So, we can't read too much into this early stage other than, they're the cars. Let's see what they do. Let's see if the differences between certain teams, specifically Lotus and McLaren, see if they're going to be different to anyone else. And by now you should have seen all the cars. And that's more or less it for this edition of F1 Talk. Sorry you haven't seen me personally, but I can't quite figure out how to get pictures and audio, pictures and video up in the same video. As I say, I'm very basic when I'm filming these, so I hope you now understand what I'm trying to get at when I talk about the ugly duckling nose and the step down or the curve down. So, as I say, the next episode should be after the 4th day of testing, and I'll see you then.